G'day guys, this is Viv from Battle Bunker. I hope you're all keeping well. We have a Dystopian Wars tournament coming up on the 25th of April, so we need to build a few more tables because we only have 2 tables in store at the moment. So I thought I'd take you through the process of building one of those tables. We had a lot of comments on the last video that we put up, people looking for glass coat and all that type of stuff. So I've already blue based a couple of the tables with just a sort of a dark blue colour. And now it's time to start texturing up the table with a couple of lighter greens and lighter blues and all those types of things. So I thought I'd take you along for the ride. If anyone has any questions about Dystopian Wars, feel free to send me a message. I'm not a master of the game, but I'll see what I can answer for you. I suggest you go check out Spartan Games. They've got a really good forum. It's quite active there. A lot of people are participating in their discussions. So without more stuffing around and further ado and all that other sort of business, let's jump into the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Right, so now that we've got the table covered with our base blue coat, it's time to start adding the greens and the lighter blues. That's going to give us our sort of wave sort of effect, I suppose. I don't know what else to call it. So I've got a greenish sort of aqua colour and a much lighter blue to use on the table. I've also got a couple of selection of sponges. These ones were just a normal sponge used for washing a vehicle or something like that, and we just pulled chunks out of it to create a sort of an undulated surface. And this one, slightly different sponge. It's one of the household scrubbing sponges for doing your dishes, and again we just ripped some chunks out of it to make it irregular. So I find that these two work really well. Sea sponges are a little bit too hard. The sponges that have the cheese sort of appearance are a little bit too regular. You still need to pull chunks out of them. So these are the sponges that we'll be rolling with to add our green and blue textures to the table. So I've got my green paint here and a piece of newspaper onto which I can take paint either from the lid or pour a little bit out onto the newspaper. Then I can just sponge it onto the newspaper just so that it's not completely covered in paint. And with the stippling motion, I just dab the table. Now I'll do this with the green and then again with the lighter blue colour. So as I mentioned, I've come back and I've started doing the blue. This time I've changed to the other sponge because it's a slightly different pattern and it has a straight edge, which allows me to do sort of wave patterns. So same thing, just gently tapping the table with the sponge to create our surf. So there we go. There's our other table over in the background and the one that we've just been working on, plus the third one over in the workshop. Ready to dry up. This will only take 10 or 15 minutes because the coats are so thin. And the tables will be ready for the glass coat. So we'll let these tables dry for a little bit, then we'll come back and mix up some glass coat. It's a 2-part clear resin, generally used for finishing timber, dining room tables and that sort of stuff. And we'll brush a thin layer of that on and stipple it with some scrunched up paper towel. So now that we've got all the tables finished in terms of the surf colouring, the base blue coat, then the green and the lighter blue, stip it on with the sponges like we saw in earlier on, it's time to start adding our resin effect. Now I use a product called Glass Coat. I've mentioned it many times before. Glass Coat is a 2-part epoxy resin. It's clear, it doesn't shrink when it dries, it's very hard. Takes about 24 hours to fully cure, so we'll do the tables now and tomorrow they'll be playable. Once we've done this, it's just a matter of waiting. Then we build islands and we play. Okay, so here's what I need to do the resin. I've got 2 small cups into which I'm going to pour each part of the glass coat. I'm then going to pour those parts into the larger container and add a little bit of this blue ink. Now this is just a blue dye that I use for tinting clear resin when we cast pieces, so they come out in a sort of blue like crystals and all that sort of stuff. I have a cheap brush for brushing the glass coat onto the surface, and some paper towels which I'll use to stipple the glass coat on there. So that's what we need to go out to glossing up our table. So let's get cracking. It's equal parts of both of these resins. So glass coat can be used to make resin ponds and sludge and all that other sort of stuff that you can do with commercially available excuse me, water effect products. And you can just pour it as deep as you want this time. You don't need to do in layers and all that sort of business. Once we've got it mixed, we just need to excuse me, brush it onto our table just as you would a paint. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole table. No need to sit there and watch me do it, how boring. And once we come back, when the table's completely covered, we'll scrunch up some paper and stipple the surface. Okay, so here's our table so far. The right hand side of the table has had its resin brushed on. It was the first part, and as you can see, it's already started to pull up against each other because the glass coat's quite sticky. It wants to stick to itself. Whereas the left hand side of the table is still relatively smooth because it hasn't had time yet to pull up against itself. What we want to do now is, you'll notice there, that part of the screen there where you see the big pool of glass coat. We want to use the paper towels now to mat down the whole table so we end up with a finish that looks like that. Okay, so now at this stage I'd recommend wearing some protective gloves, some latex gloves, bit of paper towel, excuse me, bit of paper towel just scrunched up into a ball. You just want to try and hit all those big areas that haven't pulled up yet. And once we're done with our stippling, the whole table will have this ripple effect. Once it all dries, all we need to do is build ourselves some little islands, and we've got ourselves a rather nice looking table for playing a little bit of Dystopian Wars. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope it's been useful, hope it's been helpful, hope it's been interesting. If you haven't had a chance to check out Dystopian Wars yet, I really enjoy it. There's a lot of guys at the club that play it. We have a tournament on the 25th of April, as I may have mentioned, I can't quite remember. So the game's really moving along. Spartan Games, who released Firestorm Armada and Uncharted Seas, have done a really good job with Dystopian Wars, so go check them out at spartangames.co.uk and have fun. Steampunk, Victoriana, alternate history sort of stuff. Rock on. Thanks guys for watching. Catch you next time.